Hi. Hello. Welcome in. Give me one moment, y'all, to change this thumbnail. There we go. Perfect. It's really time for me to cut my nails. High key. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. It's really time for me to cut my nails. So today's been really interesting. I woke up a few times. I had a workshop thing to attend this morning. And so I attended that workshop thing this morning. Now, I've told y'all before that my laptop is still on Eastern time. I live on Central time, so there's a 1 hour difference. The thing starts at 10 o'clock, and they said be signed in 15 minutes early. Now, with this program, you can't really sign in unless someone has it like running. And so I get on 9:45, 9:46 trying to sign in. It ain't working. And then I'm looking at stuff like, oh, it says 11 to 1. So I'm like, okay, like work, because I was rushing to get out the shower, and like I deep conditioned my hair last night, so it's fairly like detangled. Like you see that? I can just like do that. Okay, well there's another one, but fairly is what I said. Um, and so let's pull these. I could just do another story actually. I don't know. We'll see. And so it's like 9:53, and I'm like, well, let me like, because I didn't have time to comb through my hair yet. So I was like, well, let me just get up here, put on some moisturizer, and just comb my hair a little bit. And so I finish at like 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, I sit back down to my computer. It's still there. Um, of course, it didn't just disappear. And I was like, well, let me just like sign in and see what's up. And girl, like, it has started. It didn't like start. They were like, we're starting promptly at 10 o'clock. And it was 10 o'clock exactly. I was like, well, let me just, I'm glad I followed my first mind. Because I was like, well, let me just see. And she was up. And she was like, hey, so we're going to be starting. Like, we're going to be locking the room at 10:05. Blah, 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 blah. And we're going to be starting. I was like, oh my gosh, my computer is still on Eastern time. So if I would have waited until 11 o'clock, I would have missed it. But fortunately, it worked out. It worked out. And I'm actually kind of excited about it. It feels like it could be a next step. It feels like the next step, honestly. And again, like, I don't necessarily have to take anything, but it's something worth looking into, something worth applying for. Um, oops. What's this? Strength, the Two of Wands, and the Ace of Pentacles. Wow, Ace of Pentacles, Two of Wands, and Strength. This is... Oh, I need to open up OBS, because the delay. Here we go. This is interesting. There we go. Now I can see it real time. I know some people say that the two, and then there's that Son of Wands, or the Son of Cups right there under all of this. So maybe the Son of Cups is wanting to build a nest, is about to be migrating to a suitable location to do that, and is going to have the strength to tell Mama Bird, Queen of Swords, what's that? We have a son approaching a queen, girl. That's what they may feel like. Anyway, so yeah, thankfully I listened to that and I just went ahead and popped in. What is that? What is this? Create highlight video. What does that do? Share and live stream settings. Okay, I don't know what create highlight video means, but hey Mimi, how you doing today? So yeah, it was actually, I don't know, it was chill, and it was kind of sort of like a Zoom call, but it was Cisco, some Cisco thing, and She was like, I muted everybody. Please keep yourselves muted to limit the feedback. And then by the end of it, she was like, I just want to thank y'all for being so amazing with the muting. This has been the best workshop I've ever run. She was like, thank y'all. And like everyone was respectful and no one was just like unmuting themselves and talking out of turn. People were waiting. I was like, okay, this is chill. Very stark contrast to my dream last night. Okay. I'm doing pretty good today. Today's a good day. I finished my Taco Bell butter chicken, which was amazing. It's not actually from Taco Bell. I call it Taco Bell because I made Indian food and it tasted like an American made it or somebody else. But it was pretty good. I think I needed to let it sit or let the spices cook in a little longer. I had that workshop and it felt right. Felt like it could be a next step. Definitely felt like something that I'm at least going to apply for. So I'm going to be working on that. Justice for the Emperor. Also justice for Ms. Spears. Girl. Well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but like I didn't really know justice with the Hermit. I didn't really listen to non-gospel music growing up. So like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears, anybody else I never really cared about or followed because I didn't listen to them. But to hear about all that stuff, girl. And then not to mention all the elder abuse that happens in conservatorships. I'm like, ooh. But yeah, I'm doing good today. Thank you. My dream last night, I had like my dreams have been fairly contentious, honestly. NGL, not gonna lie. I feel like I've been saying not gonna lie a lot lately. They've been really like contentious lately. And I can't remember. No. Oh, there's the Ace of Pentacles. Bottom of the deck is the Eight of Swords. Ace of Pentacles is the top. I can't remember what happened in the first part of the dream. I remember it was some drama or some conflict or something. I'm like, I don't know why there's so much conflict in my dream. Like, at least I can sleep. But then when I went back to sleep, there was something about the sun that it was weird. Yeah, like the first night, ooh, strengthen the King of Cups, Archangel of Healing. The first night, it was like peaceful, but super like random and disjointed and all smashed together. And then the next night, I talked about it yesterday in the 7-7 Dreams video. And then tonight, or the night before last, it was that last night, it wasn't extreme. Oh, no. What had it was so weird. I was trying to shower, but for some reason, the tub with the shower head in it, for some reason, it was like a tub with a shower head in a room that was like, it wasn't a classroom. It was like a computer lab. And there was somebody up front doing something or talking about something. And like, whenever I have something to do, it affects my sleep. Like, if ever I set an alarm, it just does. Because I consciously and so like I consciously don't want to oversleep, so subconsciously I sleep very, very light, and I like wake up all the time because I don't want to miss the alarm. And I set the alarm to make sure I wouldn't miss this workshop today. There's that gardener. I feel like we talked about that gardener. Oh no, that's what I did. The Seven of Pentacles came out on the Legacy channel. It's actually processing right now. I did it right before I came live. But that's why I didn't like upload super early today. Six of Wands, the champion at the bottom of the deck. Cut into the Ace of Pennies. Ooh, though. That Ace of Pentacles keeps showing itself, so Um, but for some reason, the shower curtain was gone. And I'm like, I am not about to shower in front of this room of people. Ain't nobody. And so I talked to dude, and dude was like talking a big game, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm like, I'm trying to report him. Archangel of Mysteries, love that. With that Two of Swords, love that. The Blind Seer. Um, and I remember I saw, when I was an RA, I had a whole floor. Some of the people, it's actually interesting because the first time I had an alcohol bust on my floor, it was this one room, and like I'm fairly chill, so I'm not coming in the room like, power tripping or whatever. I'm just like, hey, like, first of all, it's late. Like, y'all know y'all in the wrong. I'm here. Y'all are here. Let's just get them IDs out, fill out the whatever, and then we can go about our merry way. And I was like, okay. And so, um, then the next year, I wasn't an RA that year, but I worked at one of the halls, and one of my residents became an RA there. And he was a person whose room I went into who had the little party or whatever, the little get together. And then I saw one of my other residents, and he was like, yeah, like 5 people who were in the room that day you made that bust, 5 of those people became RAs this year. I was like, oh my gosh, there's the Emperor. Okay, all right. Here's that Emperor. 5 other people became RAs the next year. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And I was like, there, I was there for that moment, writing them up. But I saw him, and I was like, okay, I know he's an RA. I was like, Sai, can you write this dude up, because I'm trying to take a shower, and he's not letting me do that because he's not giving me the gosh darn shower curtain, and I'm not about to shower in front of all y'all. His name was Sai. Um, and the Fool, the Initiate. Now this is the fresh Fool. But what this Emperor may not understand is he's not alone on this journey, because once he begins, that's when the little guide wakes up. You see that little sleeping fox thing? It wakes up and it accompanies him. This is interesting. I don't know what this is. And so yeah, it wasn't super like confrontational. It was just weird. So I was like, I'm trying to shower, and then here's the Queen of Swords, and I've been seeing the King of Swords like crazy. The King of Swords actually came out when I put the Mystic Mondays away. I was like, here this King of Swords go again. But he wasn't doing nothing. And then I saw my buddy, the one I went on the retreat with, and he was my boss when I was an RA, so he's a step above. And I was like, this dude ain't giving me the shower curtain. Can somebody write him up or something so I can take my shower? And so then there's a shower curtain, and I'm still like, I'm standing in the tub, but I'm not disrobed yet. And I'm looking, and it's like the shower curtain. So it's like the tub ends here. Where's my hand? Okay, the tub ends here, and the shower curtain ends like here. And I'm like, this ain't that kind of show. This ain't that kind of program. What is happening? What is going on? And then for some reason, I saw the dude who was like, he was talking a big game, doing whatever. And it was like a case file that he had or something. And I remembered his name as soon as I woke up, but I forgot it. It was really weird. It was one of those weird names. And one of those weird names, like when someone does something that isn't great and you look at their name, it's like, oh, okay. But he went by something else for short. And so at first I woke up with that dream, and I was like, that's weird. And also I was just trying to shower. And then there was something about a sun. But it was like, it wasn't, there was something about like the real sun. Like not a fake sun, the real sun. And I remember like trying to look up something or trying to look at something. And I was like, no, that would be the fake sun. Because like the real sun is the sun inside of us. Maybe the solar plexus, I don't know. That was random and weird. So But I've been going to bed at a decent time and getting a fair amount of sleep. So I will take a few weird dreams. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily like super combative. It was just like weird because I'm trying to shower and this dude was like not letting me shower. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Please, just like I don't understand what this is about." That's way too much. Okay, there's one card. The Three of Swords. I actually just saw this Three of Swords. It was at the cut. So we have the Emperor, the Three of Swords, and the Fool. So somebody probably think that they ruined an opportunity for themselves. Also, I was talking to Emily yesterday, and I've said it here before, but it's like there are some people who can give birth to light and some people who just carry it, which is fine. We all have our roles and our duties and our responsibilities. But it's like after the light, I don't know what to call them, light birthers, after the stars start to give off light, then the satellites and the mirrors can come in and begin to reflect it. Just saw the Two of Cups, but the Four of Cups is what came out. I'll get one more, just, to wrap this up, I guess. I don't know. Justice and the High Priestess at the cut. Ooh, both of them are twos. That's interesting. What was I talking about? What was I saying? I don't remember. Oh yeah, the people who can bear light. And the people who carry it. It's like stars. So once the stars put out enough light, then it's like the satellites come online and they can begin to reflect it. And so I feel like I over here honestly feel like I'm starting to like wind down. And it seems like other people are starting to get a little more activated. Or they're about to start doing stuff. But I'm over here like, oh, Ace of Pentacles. Girl, I've seen you like all day today. Okay, well, she keeps making herself known. Ace of Pentacles, it's all about to begin. It's all coming in. You said you wanted to win. Well, here's your chance to end the foolishness. The silly games and the foolishness. Bottom of the deck is the Nine of Wands, though. Nine of Wands. Don't get lazy now. With the Emperor, so it's like somebody potentially think that they missed out on an opportunity, maybe because of some Three of Swords matter, or it caused a Three of Swords matter. But this gateway was actually being blocked by this Scarlet Shield, and the Scarlet Shield is the shield of the mind, and so it's almost like there was no way to go down this pathway. It was a false way. It's like on the Roadrunner cartoons or on other cartoons when there's like a brick wall, but they'll paint like a tunnel with the road in front of it. So like as soon as they go into the tunnel, they'll hit a brick wall or something like that. It's like it looked like you could go a lot further, but whatever this was, you actually stopped at the point you were meant to. It's like this shield right here was preventing you from going any further anyway. And that shield being like you weren't mentally in the space, you weren't yet mentally expanded enough to appreciate that space for what it was. And so you encountered a toll booth or a stoplight. A toll booth or a stoplight. And that's what this Four of Cups is. Like with the initiate and this, it's like you weren't yet ready to proceed anyway. There was more that you had to do before you could really accept this cup. But now this Ace of Pentacles is coming in. If you have the strength to resume, it's coming in to offer you the opportunity to continue something that you weren't yet ready to continue. And again, it's like you weren't in a space of personal power. You weren't yet in your own sovereignty and authority enough to really carry out whatever this was. But whatever has happened since then has been to put you in the place of that power. Or it will be to put you in the place of power in these next sort of situations you have coming up. I guess I got to remember that for me, it seems like time is like accelerated, or like I'm like way too ahead or something. I don't know. Like when I read, I'm not great at always accurately reading your next, like what's happening within the next like week or so, or even month. That's why sometimes I like to try to use a significator to hold it down. But also at the same time, that could be the beginning of High Priestess and the King of Swords. That could be the beginning of the process, right? Not necessarily the end. The Magician with the High Priestess 1 and 2. I like that. But yeah, it's kind of sort of like a false start, but it's not a false start because you were supposed to go there. You just weren't going to go all the way yet. It's like you got to train for the marathon. This gosh darn Five of Swords is going to be at the top of the deck with the Empress at the bottom. And we just saw the Emperor. So your Emperor's been fighting hard. Your Emperor's been fighting hard, but not in ways that are very effective. Because a lot of this is a lot of this is connection driven and connection based, and so it's like the Empress is naturally a little bit more receptive, and the Emperor is a little bit more obstructive. And if you are obstructing what needs to happen, it's going to take you a little bit longer. And you can be obstructive for any way or in any way. A lot of it is based in the ego, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the way that we would necessarily expect. Right? Like if you're holding on to pain, that's the ego. If you are sort of like, if you have like an actual like ego problem, right? Like too big-headed, too proud, then that's the ego. If you sort of like don't think you're worthy or good enough or that you stack up, that's the ego. Any matter of the shadow can keep you from obstructing whatever it is that you needed to learn or see in order to grow. But that Empress energy and her receptivity, she just takes it. She takes it as it comes, right? She could take a pounding and keep on trucking. She's the gosh darn Empress. She can handle the Emperor, right? She's the Scorpio that can handle the bull. Look, and then there's the death card at the cut with this Eight of Swords still. She's the Scorpio that can take the bull, right? Even though it would kind of sort of be reversed because Scorpio is Mars and Taurus is Venus. But you get the picture. Or she's the bull that can take the scorpion sting. Yeah, that kind of works. She's the bull that can take the sting from Scorpio, whereas other creatures may, die. Or be inconvenienced. Yeah, the Two of Wands and the Hierophant coming out like, yep, she's the one taking the ride. And she's the one taking the ride. And so that may have been what can propel that energy or people in that energy. And I was talking to Emily, and it was so amazing. I've been talking to her about a lot of stuff lately. A lot of stuff that I didn't necessarily talk about before. That's way too much, but Temperance just made an appearance. Excuse me. Let's spice this up. Bottom of the deck is the Ace of Swords, and we're just going to lay this out. I'm going to try to start and finish this story. The moral of the story will be the Ace of Swords. The surprise ending is going to come from this deck, and it's going to be this card right here. Don't know what it is, but we'll see. This actually kind of sort of should be the moral because it's deeper, but anyway, we'll see. We'll just see. I'm just having fun today. I'm taking a little bit of a break because I'm all productive out. Oh, it's 2:22. I would show y'all, but my background is still what it is. Oh wait, hold on, wait. Okay, let's see. I'll go to my home screen. Y'all see that 2:22 up there? I don't know if you can see it, but it's 2:22. Oh wait, I have my iPad. Oh, yeah, I'm using it to prop up the webcam. Never mind. Um. Anyway, so what am I rambling about? The Empress is receptive, so she goes with the flow. The Emperor is obstructive, and so he takes it a little bit slower, but he also gets a different understanding. Um, it's almost like the Emperor is better at understanding the bounds of something because he is so obstructive. And the Empress is so receptive that she doesn't necessarily ask the tough questions or the hard questions. She doesn't necessarily push limits or see where those boundaries are because she just accepts it as it comes. And so there's a strength that they both have. And the Emperor, being that masculine, being the structure, the foundation. Also, what was that? What was that? I'll see if I still have it. Being the structure and the foundation, it's kind of sort of his job to know what the bounds are. Because it's almost like it isn't, but well, it's like he creates the playground for the Empress to play on. And as she gives birth to something, he dresses it, right? Because, she just gave birth, so she ain't going to be cleaning up the baby and making sure, like, it can breathe. Like, you pat it on the bottom, it cries, it's alive. You cut the umbilical cord, like all of that stuff that happens immediately after you push the child out. And while you're pushing the child out, that's everything that the Emperor does. And the Empress is there, giving birth. Not saying that's all she does, but when it comes to that point, that's what she does. And it's his job to really curate the experience around that. But then also, it's like if you have a garden and you have a scaffold for the plants to grow on or to grow around, it's like that would be the Emperor, and then the Empress would be the actual plant. I think there is creator functionality that the Emperor has that we may not have necessarily really been granted access to yet because we've been more in like Emperor in reverse or toxic masculine energy rather than a more not self-confident, but like an Emperor energy, like a masculinity that doesn't have to prove anything. It's a lot less egoic. Um, divine masculine energy. And so when divine masculine energy really comes in, I feel like we'll be able to see how they create. Because I've been thinking about primordial motherly energy, and it almost in some ways doesn't make sense to me for that energy to be purely feminine because the material has to come from somewhere. And so there had to be energetically, it's like there has to be some kind of male influence or some kind of male participation there somewhere. But it's all being like, it's like whenever masculine energy went off the deep end, that's when it was all forfeited to the feminine energy or it was just lost. But now we're going to be getting it back. And so we're going to be able to see what masculine energy is really capable of. And so it's almost like the feminine energy is, it's like the masculine gives her all of the material and then she turns it into something and she spits it back out, right? Or she births it. And so it's like when it comes to the raw sense of it, the masculine energy gives the feminine something raw. And then the feminine processes it, refines it, assembles it, and creates something from it. But you can also create something without that process of refinement, but it would be a lot more chaotic in nature. Excuse me. So then in some ways it's almost like the feminine and the masculine flip because you think that the masculine is organized and the feminine is chaotic, but in reality it's like or not in reality, but in another way, it could be that the masculine is chaotic and the feminine is organized because she does something with that pure energetic potential and she actually concentrates it down into something that can be experienced or felt. Um, anyway, I don't know what all this is, y'all. Don't ask me. Let's start the story, shall we? I'd love to start with like a character. Oh, the Five of Wands, girl. What am I supposed to do with this Five of Wands? This is the fun. So I'm getting some sort of competition here. This is competing energy. We don't have a character yet, so this is competing energy. There are many sets of hands that can do many different things with the same group of material. Let's say there is a contest. There is. Oh, goodness. I like this. We're going, speaking of primordial energy, let's say there is a contest that the Supreme Being is having. The Supreme Being, Unified Consciousness, has recently split itself. And it is now relegating the tasks and duties of creation to these 5 different parts of itself. And so it gives them access to the same material. And it says whoever can come up with the best concept will grade that. Whoever comes up with the best execution. It's like there's a competition, but there's a few different categories. There's concept, the conception of it, execution, creativity, as far as the ability for something to grow. No, let's just, well, yeah. So an element of unpredictability is lumped in with creativity, right? It's like how in life, like you never really truly know what's going to happen, especially when it comes to things that are consciousness that have their own consciousness. So there's conception, execution, and creativity. And then a 4th category that they're not told about. And so these 5 entities all begin creating with, that shadow looks weird. They all begin creating with the material. Now, some of them have creations that are super abstract and very creative, but it's too chaotic. It's too abstract to really hold anything. If it were void, it would be amazing, but they don't necessarily quite know why this is happening. It's part of the 4th category, right? The reason why this competition is happening in the first place. And then there are some that are very highly executed, very, very fine details, but aren't very creative. It's very predictable and kind of boring. And not boring in the sense of like it needs to be exciting, but it's like, this is a unified consciousness that just split itself so it can have a little fun or so it can experience something, right? And then there are some that kind of sort of fall in between, extremely structured and extremely abstract. And there are these in-betweens. I'll say it feels like there are 3 in-betweens where there's an interesting mix of conception, execution, and creativity. And it's like between these 3, there's kind of sort of a tie. Oof! Girl, 5 of Wands into the 5 of Swords. Okay, so between these 3, there's a tie. And ultimately, it can't decide which to pick of these 3. Because let's say the creativity is a little higher in one, the execution is a little better in another, and the concept is better in the last. And so they're all given permission to proceed to the first round, right? And so Um, they begin the second round of creation. But the two entities on the other side, both of them are unhappy that they have sort of failed. And it's like they weren't even really given an assignment to begin with. It's just like, here's some toys, kids. But you're watching to see what the kids do with it. And we're like, well, like if we knew this was a competition, if we knew that there were rounds, we would have done it differently. And it's like, well, if I would have told you that it was a competition, you would have done it differently. And that's why I couldn't tell you that it was a competition, because it's about just the pure innocence of expression, right? Without the filter of a category and assignment. And so they get upset. We have the extremely chaotic and the extremely predictable. And so they sort of come together. And at this point, they can sort of fractal themselves because they're high enough. Like they're creating things. They're high enough to fractal themselves. And so these two come to an agreement, and they interfere with the work of all three of the ones who have moved on to the next round. And this is where polarity is born. You have the extremely ordered and organized, and then you have the extremely abstract and chaotic, and they come together to influence the scores of the three moving forward. Now, these two have sort of, in some way, always been at odds. They've never really been able to work together. And so, even when they're interfering, we don't necessarily see an equal give and take between them. It's always heavier on one side or heavier on the other side. And since their beings are split between these three to try to sabotage all of them, they may not necessarily split themselves evenly. Now, what could happen is the extremely organized one will split itself 33%, 33%, 33%, and then a third of a percentage to each. But then when it comes to the abstract one, it's like I'm just gonna go. Like there is no measurement here. And so it could be the case that sometimes we go a little heavier on the extreme. Well, yeah, we go a little heavier in the extreme of abstract, but it's like the order is kind of sort of always there. Now, the supreme unified consciousness that runs between them knows this, and he kind of sort of in some ways expected it. That's why this fourth category was always there, right? Because as he moved them to the next round was to begin to create within those spaces. Like within the initial space that they created that was judged, now they create within that space something that interacts with that space to see how dynamic that space is. But this creator being, again being the unified supreme source, it's like it in some ways wants to more so watch and observe and experience through them, because it's like it could have done it itself if it wanted to do it itself, right? It would have done it itself. And he anticipates that those two will come together. And so what they do is they introduce an element of spontaneity and variety that tests the system in a way that the initial creators would never have expected, because they're so intentionally creating their interactions, or creating something that will interact with everything at large, right? And so it's almost like these two that have formed this duality sort of truce are load testing whatever the others are creating. It's like, if we do this, do we encounter bugs or glitches, right? And that's what this is. So in the load test, you sort of figure out, okay, one of these worlds crumbles and falls apart because it can't survive the load test. And maybe that was the one that was a little bit heavier on the structure, but lacked conceptualization and creativity, because Actually, I think, yeah, one of them passed, but two of them didn't. The one that was heavy on structure failed. The one that was heavy on the execution failed because everything was so tightly regulated and monitored to get it just right that when it was introduced with something foreign or outside or a little bit that deviated, the whole thing would just fall apart. And then the one that was heavy on the concept also failed because whereas one was structured too rigidly, the other one was conceptualized too rigidly. So whether you act in a way that wasn't predicted or able to be accounted for, or you thought in a way that wasn't predicted or able to be accounted for, both of them kind of sort of crashed the program. Now the one that scored the highest in creativity was able to make it on to the next round because in that space of creativity there's enough wiggle room to allow things to grow and expand, right? That was the accounting for the unpredictable. That is kind of, it's like related to this fourth category that we're testing, but it still, in some conceivable ways, falls within the realm of creativity. Um, and then we have the losers of the second round. So these, I don't think they're necessarily going to the extreme that the first two who fell out are. They're not going to team up with the polarity duo and start causing even more trouble. What they're going to do is they're going to sit back on their own creations and they're actually learning. They decide to learn from the as of now winner, right? Because there were only 5 and now we're down to 1. And so they're looking at all of the things that this one accounted for that they didn't necessarily do, right? That's why there's like 3 cups pointing towards the moon on both sides and 1 cup pointing towards the sun. Can y'all see these? I guess y'all can't. So let me hold these up real quick. This is the 5 of Wands. That's where we started. This is the 5 of Swords. We still don't have a main character, so that's why everything is so nebulous. Excuse me, 7 of Cups. I haven't been reading these as I flip them over either. And now we're entering the 5 of Cups territory. They decide to learn rather than to try to sabotage. And they are tempted by the polarity duo, but they don't take it. Now, the order side of the polarity duo almost takes notes from these two. And the abstract side of the polarity duo feels the opposite and is a little bit upset. And so in its upsetness, it ups the ante. Now, not only can it do that because it only has one thing to interfere with instead of 3, but it's also, motivated by sort of being turned down by these other two because they didn't fall to the same depths. Not depths, but they didn't fall to the same sort of ego trap that this one did. And so order is still in this polarity duo, but it isn't necessarily as involved as it was in the past. It comes to the point where order kind of sort of takes a back seat and order begins to observe. But chaos still, it does even more. And so now this polarity is sort of like chaos heavy. Now, as the other two are watching, and kind of sort of order out of the corner of his eye, because, he did like do a whatever with chaos. And he also understands that he can't completely allow this to fall apart because also he's interested enough. He's starting to see it from the other two, their point of view. He's interested enough to see like why this one works and what is the Supreme actually like testing or looking for. Like, why are we actually doing this? Because again, order is like, if I can figure out exactly what he wants, girl, like, I've got the brain, I can do it. Um, and then, and like after I figure it out, maybe I'll come back with chaos and we'll really crash this. But I want to make sure I'm ready for the next round before I completely like cause us to do another round, right? But it's almost like the other two, with permission from the third, the two who aren't actively sabotaging, it's almost like they get a piece of that third's space to create within it. But they create from it far enough that it doesn't interfere with the one that is there, or so they think. Right? And so they are defeated, but they're not bitter. Oh, and then we got the lovers. Oh my gosh. So the other two, they're out creating where it won't interfere with this. Now this one is the one that's creativity heavy, and it's getting taking the brunt of Chaos's frustration. Um, but what's happening is, since they're creating in this space where chaos still exists, it's like they've begun to work together instead of working apart. So you begin to get these pockets where it exists within the same space again, but you get some that are like order heavy, and then you get some that are a little bit more concept heavy. And so the order heavier ones may be like more technological or robotic or hive mindy, and the concept heavy ones would be a little bit more about like the ethics and the feelings, and societally like about like love and stuff like that. And so within the winning space, they try to create and they still fail. And so then they have the idea, again, outside of the main thing, because I guess I haven't even thought about what the third round is yet, but nobody really knows what the third round is. All we know is that there was round one where, Supreme Consciousness was like, I like your three, the other two, you're out. And then after the second one, it's like, okay, now you two are out. And it's like, well, if there's only one left, we would assume that there's a winner, but what if it's not over? So anyway, the two on the outside, they, even in this realm, they can't get theirs to work because something happens when there's a lack of unity. And that is the beauty of what the polarity duo really introduces to this. We see some very small pockets where the polarity is more evenly balanced. And so these two, who are already in like closer to the middle of this polarity spectrum, decide to work together. And again, it's still away from the main thing, but they decide to work together to try to create a balance. And I would say it's fairly successful. There's a balance between the logic and the creativity, right? Between conception and execution. Where if you have an idea that's extremely complicated, it could be nearly impossible to actually execute. But if you have something that's extremely easy to execute, it's probably not too complicated. It's probably very simple, right? And so one gives the other complexity, and that one gives the other one stability. Something that can be executed, and then something that can be enjoyed. Even though enjoyment is kind of sort of where creativity thrives. Uh, so last but not least, we're gonna wrap this whole story up with Le Black Swan, that father of cups, girl, and we saw the Son of Cups today. So what they discover is oh girl, now my head is starting to hurt. So the other two, although this is where the story gets a little weird and where we kind of sort of lose track of the events. So I'll just name a few things. So there's this understanding between, I'll say, 2 and 4. 1 and 5 are the extremes. 5 is the chaos. 1 is the order. 2 and 4 are in the in-betweens. And then 3 is the one that's left in the competition. Excuse me. Even though technically it would be 4. So yeah. 4 is the one that's left in the competition. Because 1 was the concept, so that would be 2. 2 was the execution, so that would be 3. And then the third category was creativity, so number 4. 4 is the one that is still in it, and you can see, how close to 5 4 already is. So 4 was already pretty close to 5. And then 1 was like, actually, I may pull away a little bit. And then so 5 is just like running amok. But 2 and 3, which also equals 5, interestingly enough, when they come together, 2 and 3 are off. They went off to do their own thing. And then they found a 5 between them that works. And so we know that that happened. We also know that in 4's world, there is a balance between 1 and 5. And 4's world was picked because it can stand up to things that aren't necessarily quote-unquote expected. It can in some way or another account for the quote-unquote unexpected. Now, either 4 is learning as they go and coming to this balance where it makes sense, or 2 and 3 have whispered into 4's ear. So either 4 took enough time away, either 4 stopped focusing on their own thing long enough to notice that 2 and 3 got something that works, or 2 and 3 let 4 in on it in a little bit of a hush-hush way, right? So like, hey, like, we figured this out between us, and we know that we said we wouldn't encroach upon your space, but we were wondering if what we figured out will work where you are. Either or. I don't know which happened. And so 4, inevitably, this happens in 4. And what is 1 through 5? That's 15. Oh my gosh. That's 15, and 15 is a 6. That would explain some things. Okay. Because that's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Because 1 through 4 is 10. I know that. Right? 1 and 2 is 3. 3 and 3 is 6. 6 and 4 is 10. And then you add a 5, that's 15, which reduces to a 6. And 15 is a very beautiful number. Right? They have the magic squares, where each row, column, and diagonal adds up to 15, which reduces to a 6, which is that 666, but it's supposedly all about harmony between all of the planes. And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, that's interesting that when 1 through 5 come together, they give that 6 harmony. Or if 5 and 1 came together in a way where one wasn't necessarily overshadowing the other, then they would also give you that 6 harmony. But 5 ain't listening to nobody enough to do that, so it takes all 4 of those to get 5 to like see it, or to combat 5 enough to really get that harmony. I don't think 5 can be convinced. It takes the other 4 to get 5 to counteract 5 enough to create that balance, and then 5 fights that balance so much that the other 4 really have to like fine tune and adjust for 5, because 5 doesn't like that, right? 5 is always moving, it's always fluid, it's always in contention with other people and within itself. And so that's why 5 doesn't necessarily just calmly stay in that space. I don't even know if y'all can hear me, but Mimi replied to me earlier, so I know y'all can. I was like, I don't even see my little volume slider on here, but that's fine. And so anyway, we get this that happens in this space. And this is the Neo. This is the one. It's an element of uniqueness. It's one who can experience both sides with, you can, okay, thank you. I was like, yeah, because, you know, like you replied to me earlier. But last time I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can be heard. The whole video came out quiet. And then I made 2 more without even checking the audio. But this is the one who can experience both to the degree that they can begin to understand. And so this catches the attention of the Supreme Being, because this is what the Supreme Being wanted to know. It's almost like the Supreme Being wanted to know if it could rediscover itself with this Ace of Swords. It's almost like the Supreme Being wanted to know if it could rediscover itself, but it had to be so removed from itself for it to forget it or to not understand itself. It had to be so removed and so fractured and splintered, because if it were like the first 5, the original 5, they knew the Supreme Being, and so that wasn't enough, right? And that's another thing that these worlds were doing, because it was causing them to fractal and to fracture themselves in order to create these things and to sustain them. And then, like I said, when 1 and 5 sort of fractaled themselves to interact with 2, 3, and 4, right, they had already split. And so it's like you're getting all of these splits all the way down, that is far enough removed. But again, like it wants to see if it can rediscover itself, number one. But also, I feel like it wants to see what it can do, right? It's almost like a Houdini type of energy, if there is a Houdini energy. It's like, tie me up, like with rope and chain, lock it, put me in a box, throw me in the ocean, give me limited oxygen so I can see if I can escape. It's like I want to see what I can do when I don't have access to much of anything. Because it isn't necessarily the fact that I want to forfeit all of my supreme ability, but when you're capable of everything, there's no real challenge. And so it was just a fun little thing that the Supreme Being thought of one day to challenge itself, to try to have some fun. But again, it's like if it doesn't remember who it is, that's why that first part is so crucial, right? That's why the first one is that bad. That's why the first one is crucial, because first you must remember who you are in order for you to begin to act in it. And ultimately, it wants to do that second thing, but to do the second thing, it has to do the first thing first. And we don't know if there's something that comes after the second thing. Like if there's a reason why it wanted to experience being more creative, or a reason why it wanted to experience limitation and overcoming limitation. Uh, okay, maybe it was just bored. Four of Swords, the convalescent. It was bored and it was for funsies. But why do I almost feel like it was looking for a vacation home? Like it was looking for a new home is what popped into my mind. Maybe that's it. Maybe it was looking for a home. A home where it could remember who it is, where it could not feel extremely limited. Like the limitation is part of the appeal. But if there's a hard limit, right, and that's probably why 3 didn't work, the one that was too heavy on the execution, and also why 2 didn't work, that was too heavy on the concept, because it doesn't necessarily want to face impossible odds, right? It still wants to be able to do the things that it can conceive of and think of, but it doesn't necessarily want it to be extremely easy. Um, but yeah, with this Four of Swords, it's almost like it was trying to find a new home, or trying to find a home away from home. I don't know. That was fun. Did not expect that. I thought this would be another like fairy tale type story, but girl. Bottom of the deck is this Father of Pentacles with them lit antlers. So yeah, I kind of want to pull the archetypes now. That Seven of Swords at the cut. Why did Okay, that's funny. You was right. Yeah, I guess it wanted a home away from home. I mean, I guess that makes sense. People have vacation homes, right? It's like sometimes you want to go where nobody knows your name, right? Cheers. I mean, that's not necessarily it. It's just like, it's like sometimes you want to start over, but you don't want to start all over. Or you just want to challenge yourself, right? You want to spice things up. Oh, yeah. Take that. It's just a story. These stories don't mean much, but it was fun to. That was fun. I think I might. I kind of sort of like. I want to keep going, but at the same time, it's like, how do I follow that up? You know? I don't know. Hmm. Ooh, the Two of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles at the cut. Girl, this Ace of Pentacles just keeps showing up. It just keeps showing up. Hey Siri, what time is it?
It's 3:01 p.m.
3:01. Ooh, there's that Three of Cups. The Three of Cups I've seen a few times too. Well, 12 lines. Bottom of the deck again. Top of the deck is the Nine of Cups. Okay, all right. Okay, all right, okay. Let's pull some of this today. Maybe. Let's see. I don't know, honestly, I feel like I can't really follow that up. So I'm gonna get a final message from this deck, and then I'm just gonna end it today, I guess. Yeah, it's like, it's like a. Let's see, final message, or I could pull some oracle cards and do something different. I could do that. Yeah. Okay, let's do that because I don't really want to end it, but I feel like that's the end. And I was afraid that I wouldn't get to the end of the story with just one row of cards, but I kind of did. Okay, word. Let's see who you are. The Wheel of Fortune with the Ace of Cups. What? Bottom of the deck is the Queen of Cups. And I think we saw the Archangel of Healing earlier today, but I don't remember. But the Ivory Shield. I know we've seen the Scarlet Shield today. The Ace of Cups and the Wheel. What is this? The Wheel of Life? The Ace of Cups and the Wheel of Life. Sacred Water and the Wheel of Life. I mean, I'm going to say that Cancer eclipse changed lots of stuff, and it set us on a new path and on a new trajectory. We're going to be capable of more, but we might have to do more. Do more to right. That's all about organization, making lists, checking them twice, finding out if you've been naughty or nice. And, let's be honest, sometimes it pays to be a little naughty. And sometimes it pays a lot to be a lot of naughty. If you're in the business, you may understand. Let me stop. In the business of what? I don't know. Being naughty. Yeah, I mean, I want to do something else, but that really feels like it's it. That really feels like it's it. It's like it's it. It's over. The show's over. Like, close it down. Good job. Right? I'll see you in the next iteration of this whole thing. But I can pull some oracles that I'll have. I'll see if one of these gives me a I'll see if one of these gives me a shut it on down message, or if they'll play with me. I finished my Sour Patch Kids, y'all. My body does not handle sugar the way it did before. In the past, it just don't. If I eat too much sugar, I don't want to go into TMI territory, but if I eat too much sugar, my body is just like, get it out. Get it out. But that's what people say. They say that when you eat better, you can eat worse because your body will just get rid of it. If your body has all the nutrients that it needs and in not acceptable, but within a certain supply, then it'll kind of sort of just flush whatever it doesn't need. And moderation is always key. With everything you do it not to excess. Anything in excess is or can be potentially not great. So yeah. Actually, I'm just gonna get one of these, and then I'll shut it down. So if there's anything to highlight today, okay, work. Okay, work. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, goodness. So at the bottom of the deck is Wisdom, and I'm actually going to read all of these, just to milk these last few moments for what they are. Wisdom is Psychic, Intuition, and Truth. It's number 44, so Master number 44. And we're in 4. right? Oh my gosh. I mean, like, 4 won the competition, right? Oh my gosh. Is that the Guardians? Oh no, it's Oneness. Okay. Number 44. 44. Ooh, these 2 cards that came out, y'all, they gave me a good little chuckle. A good little chuckle. Just a little chuckle. A good little chuckle. Just a little chuckle. Chuckle. Let's see. Trying to get that. There you go. You can kind of sort of see it. Kind of sort of. You can see it well enough. Number 44, Wisdom. Wisdom resonates to that divine psychic perception. It is attuned to the vibrations of courage and heavenly support for speaking one's truth. And that's funny because yesterday in the Wisdom of Lord Ganesha cards, Courage came out. Courage actually came out a lot yesterday. So definitely a time to be courageous. Definitely things beginning to sort of rain down and to be released. But, you know, sometimes you got to bust up a dam or two to really get it to flow. I'm trying to see if I can hold this in a way where I can see it, but... Oh, here we go. This works. So, the celestial interpretation is, wisdom resonates to that of divine psychic perception. It is attuned to the vibration of courage and heavenly support for speaking one's truth. Exalted and robust, this intense ray beckons the soul toward developing valuable alliances with the higher soul star and spiritual guides. It quells fears and doubts, releases anxieties from the entire chakra system, from the entire chakratic system. Where was I? And enhances psychic and intuitive abilities. The oracle interpretation is, the wisdom you seek is within you. That's going back to the sun, right? The dream I had about the sun, the fake sun and the real sun. It's like the fake sun is outside. It was weird. It wasn't like a dream. It was just a dream. Not a dream, but a dream. You know what I mean? One of those things. Excuse me. Oh, girl. This is exactly what I was saying. This is what I was saying yesterday. Unite with your powerful higher self, the purest frequency of you, and know thyself. You have innate gifts of psychic intuition, but you must first cultivate and exercise your mastery. Your higher self contains the key to unlocking your gifts. It's full steam ahead, so don't hold yourself back. Remember who you are, a powerful being of light with all the answers within you. So know that you can see the truth in all situations. I love that we're talking about connecting to our higher selves and uniting with that part of us and courage, because literally that's what Lord Ganesha said, right? The more courage, when you come from your heart, you come into your gifts. That's where your innate gifts are, in the heart, you know? That's why without its heart, humanity's been kind of easy to maneuver and manipulate. Because we're not coming from the heart, right? If you were coming from the heart, it'd be a little harder to, right? It's like one of those things where there's someone who does bad stuff and you have a character who's like, oh, I'm not the brightest bulb in, you know, the box of light bulbs. And so sometimes it'd be better to have no light than to plug me in because, girl, I may just strain your eyes. But they encounter someone who's like this mastermind who like evades everybody, who no one suspects. But since this person is so like in tune with themselves and therefore with other people, they can pick up on some shady, like something shady about this character. And so this character is like, how did you discover my secret? And they're like, discover what secret? Like, what are you talking about? You just look shady AF. And like, oh, you didn't know that I was doing this and doing this and doing that? It was like, no, but now that you tell me, I can definitely see it. Yeah, I definitely, like, I was getting some kind of weird vibe from you, and everything that you just told me fits. Um, it isn't necessarily always about intelligence, I guess. It's not always about figuring something out. It's not always about knowing the right answer. This card is beautiful. I love the moon. I just like literally just now noticed the moon in the back. With this light and this little fairy down here, or this little light, whatever. This card is gorgeous. This whole deck is gorgeous, though, honestly. Look at her. Yeah, it's all about the heart. So we have the Throat Portal and Adventure. The Throat Portal is number 40, and Adventure is number 1. Adventure is innocence, play, and discovery. The Throat Portal is speak your truth, courage, and suppression. So we got speak your truth and courage again. Courage is a theme. We have courage, and then we have adventure. You know? Let's read adventure first, and then we'll go to the... No, let's read the Throat Portal first. Excuse me. Sorry to just yawn like that on camera. But I'm small up here, so, you know. Y'all ain't even see it. This is the Throat Portal. Look at its gorgeous blue colors. Wait, I was down here. Okay, there we go. The celestial interpretation of this card says, being the truth of who you are and deeply integrating purpose. Nope, sorry. Being the truth of who you are and deeply integrating empower. Wait, what? What? Hold up. I'm going to start this all over. But here we go. Another message about us integrating who we are. Which is why all of this stuff popping up is like so important. That's the journey of essences. When did I first talk about the spiritual deprivation tank? Was that like months ago? When that Ace of Cups came out and I was like, this is like a spiritual deprivation tank. It might have even been on my Legacy channel. It could have been that long ago. But I was like, it feels like Spirit is putting us in this spiritual deprivation tank where everything is dark and blah, blah, blah. And we're kind of sort of being dissolved. Our light, our shadow, all of us, we're being dissolved. And then we're going to be able to see what is actually us. And in this darkness, we're supposed to heal the things that need to be healed so that we can accurately see even the darker parts of ourselves as ourselves if it is us. And then we can also see the things that aren't us that other people have given us or whatever, right? That was the purpose of the spiritual deprivation tank, that the Archangel of Healing was sort of like opening the doorway to. Gives me very Fringe vibes when they locked up your girl Olivia Dunham. And then she was like, got her powers back or whatever. Fringe is an amazing show. It's one of my favorite sci-fi shows. I believe it has 4 or 5 seasons. Eureka is also one of my favorite sci-fi shows, but that one's more about, you know, invention and mad scientist-y type things. And also, excuse me, it speaks to, they say war. Wait, what did they say? War is the mother of invention or something like that? Or is it necessity? Maybe war and necessity. It might be necessity is the mother of invention. But I think they also say war is the mother of invention as well. Invention has 2 moms, war and necessity. Unfortunately. So, you know. Not every mom can be a cool mom, I guess. Let me stop. So, again, let me get my eyes focused. Excuse me. Get one more yawn out the way. Being the truth of who you are and deeply integrating empowerment into your soul will enliven and honor your true purpose. Understanding your power of verbal communication and learning the balance between your willpower and your soul power in the exterior world is an exercise in balance. Always speak from your deepest truth. Always speak from the deepest truth. Are you feeling suppressed? Do not be afraid. Oh, wait, sorry. Are you feeling suppressed? Do not be afraid to speak up right now. It will be always be best. Okay. It will always be best for your highest good. Wait, what? This sentence is, it will be always be best for your highest good to speak your truth. I believe it will always be best for your highest good to speak your truth. However, if you have been too outspoken, it might be time to allow someone else the chance to speak. All in proper balance and harmony. It's now time to acknowledge where your words originate from. It is your mind, heart, or is it your mind, heart, body, or from the divine? Know where you are speaking from at all times. Your deepest truth is in this awareness. Know where you're speaking from at all times. Your deepest truth is in this awareness. That is gorgeous. Now we're going all the way to number 1, which is play. Excuse me. Oh, I'm going to be ready for a nap. Oof, I ain't taking a nap. Maybe I should just work. Well, it is only like 3:10, so I could take a nap. But we on the other side of the page today, or now. The celestial interpretation says, adventure resonates to that of innocence. What? Wait. Oh, ooh, okay. Ooh, I really love this. I love this. Adventure resonates to that of innocence transforming into maturity. This sacred ray holds the key to unlocking inner doorways to future self-communication. Powerful seeds of knowledge mirror secrets of future worlds, and alternate aspects of the soul are discovered. Inward journeys through the cosmos will unfold great mysteries and prompt advanced development of soul growth. This supernatural ray expresses love for awareness and supports boundless courage into the unknown. So again, this supernatural ray expresses love for awareness and supports boundless courage into the unknown. So we're not going into the unknown blindly. We're going into the unknown with an understanding and awareness of who we are, aka that supreme being that wanted to know if A, it could discover itself, and B, what it could do under such limitations, right? Not aka, but it mirrors that part of the story. Okay? So, it is time to play and have fun in your life. Expand and try new things. Allow your inner child a place to explore and discover. And don't get bogged down in all the details. Something new wants to come into your life. You hold the key to discovering the answers to your situation. I didn't look at any other crystals, so I'm going to go back and do that real quick. So the companion crystals for adventure are Charoite, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Morganite. The companion essential oil is Idaho Tansy. And Morganite, actually, no, that was Merlinite, not Morganite. Merlin, Morgan, they were both magical, right? The companion essential oil for wisdom is mint, and the companion crystals are apatite and blue goldstone. And then for the throat portal, the companion essential oil is peppermint. So we got mint and peppermint. Ooh, I love that. And the companion crystals are blue lace agate and turquoise. Turquoise has been popping, low-key, ever since them, what's her name days? I forget her name. Hathor. All right, y'all, that's where I'm going to end this. I hope y'all are riding them waves. Like, life is an adventure, right? Have courage. Courage has been such an important theme, I guess, here in the last 2 days. Also, self-exploration, self-acceptance, and self-unity. Harmony within the self. All of those are important. Whatever you're coming upon, it's going to be best and most easily navigated if all of you has made an appearance. So yeah, actually, I'm gonna do one more thing before I wrap this up, and I'm gonna be a little bit naughty, and I'm gonna roll some dice. See, but like, I'm not see, but like, but it's like we've been talking about inner child stuff. Oh, Blue Monkey. Wait. So wait, is that Blue Monkey's guide is about the inner child or Blue Storm? Because I know like inner child been popping up since like December or January, so we should be like somewhat there, right? Maybe. I don't know. It's like none of this stuff really necessarily pops up, and maybe it's just because I'm starting to feel a little bit more not energy. Honestly, I'm starting to feel a little bit more energetically on top of what's happening. And so maybe that's because my sensitivity has increased to the point where it's like I can listen to myself and my guides and myself, and I can look at what's happening and be like, okay, it looks like this is going on. And then it actually happens. So maybe I shouldn't be like, haven't we already done this? This is the healed inner child. So the blue storm is the healed inner child. Playful and fun. Our blue monkey is the healed inner child. Because you got two blues up there. Yeah, this is what I want. You got to read it again. But it's good as a guide. Okay. Oh, okay. The blue monkey is the guide to the blue lunar storm. Okay, I got you. I understand you now. I mean, that makes sense, right? And children can be just as tempestuous as storms. So, lots of blue this year. I like it. I'm going to fit right in. My blue knight, my blue clan. If you blue, rise up, rise up. It's our time, yo. It'll be probably a little dark and scary and confusing for the folks who aren't blue. I wonder if Emily is like blue kin. Because I talked to her the other day, and she was like, I don't know, it's a lot of people that are feeling confused nowadays, and I'm like, I don't know what y'all confused about. Confused about what? But let me stop. Sorry I'm not your relatable queen. That's not for real. Let me stop. It's just about trust. You're less confused when you trust a little bit more. Because there are going to be certain points where you're not going to know what's coming next. And it's not for you to know. Sometimes, Creator, your guides, your angels, the universe, sometimes it likes to surprise you. I thought you were like white or yellow. Red. You're red. You're red. Right? Aren't you red? You red, Ken? That red core, Ken, or something like that? You're like, everything needs to make sense. Let's see. Okay, let me open this up. Let's see. Okay, let me open this up. Or yellow. What's a yellow? Red, yellow, or white? Red, because the white and the yellow come from blue, and then they go to red. Let's see. Why it smell like somebody went swimming or something? Okay. Let's see. But your signature and guides are blue. Oof. How'd that work? Because that's like your opposite. Your signature and guide are opposite to everything else. Mine are yellow, and then my guide is blue. So we're actually going to pair these up today. Is this a 99? Oh my gosh, we got a 99, y'all. A 99 on the table. 99 is 99 is Pluto, and it's the purple set. The purple set came out Pluto, so this is a lot of universal changes. I want to say a lot of universal changes, but it's not change for the sake of just changing. It's not chaos for the sake of being chaotic. It's not destructive for the sake of being destructive. It's organized. There's a reason. There's a rhyme and a reason behind it. And the quicker we understand the rhyme and reason and the quicker we fall in line, the less it rocks us. Right? Because it will rock you. 72. 72 is... Darn it. 72 is the 9 of Souls. So the 9 of Souls is almost at the 10. So with the 9 of Souls, I feel like we're reaching an understanding of who we are more on a soul level. And we're starting to get bits and fragments of the truth of who we actually are. Maybe through the situations that have arisen. Maybe through, since this is the suit of fire, maybe through acts of courage and acts of speaking our truth and acts of operating in our truth. It's through operating in your truth that you discover more of who you are, as I've discovered. And it's almost like the throat is an activation. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense because the throat comes before the third eye and the crown. The throat comes before the third eye and the crown. So as you come into that healed and whole and balanced throat energy to the point that you're speaking your truth and you are cognizant and aware of where your thoughts and words and actions originate from, just like that throat portal said at the bottom of the entry. It begins to unlock your perception in a different way, but it also begins to increase the aperture that is your crown chakra. And so it's like sometimes you may get some crown issues because it's more active than it usually is, but sometimes it may also be expanding. And when it's expanding and increasingly active, then girl, oof. But again, like if your heart isn't online and if like your other chakras aren't really balanced, you're not really going to have anything to ground this connection to. It's kind of sort of like in one ear and out the other. Or it's going to be coming to you in ways that you can't even really begin to comprehend or understand it. You have to be aligned enough to like balance that, to ground that information and that energy. And it's like there's an up balance and then there's also a down balance, right? Anyway, 72 is that 9 of Souls. So it's like we're beginning to understand who we are, but we're not yet at the point of like being it. It's like we're beginning to know it, but we're not being it yet. And once you begin to be it, that's when things really like start to kick off. Like really start to kick off. But it requires courage. Right? Like Muriel said, courage, help me. Now we have 76. And I believe 76 is the Sage of Souls. I think it is. Stop. It was 76. Come on. And this is coming out in the Sacral. The red dice, the orange dice. 76 is the Teacher of Souls. Okay, 77 is the Sage of Souls. So we have this 9 of Souls here, and then we have the Teacher of Souls here. So again, it goes back to once you begin to speak, once you begin to use that throat, it shows you more of who you are. They say that when you teach something, you learn it twice, right? And teaching comes a lot of times from a space of experience. We can't necessarily teach things that we don't know or that we haven't experienced. And also they say that when the student is ready, the master appears. When the student becomes the master, their student appears. So there may be someone in your life who is beginning to walk the path that you walked. And with that wolf energy that came out a while ago, it isn't necessarily for them to walk exactly the path that you walked, but it's for you to accept them as they are and to know that their path may be different in some ways, but if there is some insight that you can give them, then offer it. Maybe teach a little bit, but when we're teaching, again, it's to understand that different students learn in different ways and different students have different destinies. And so they may ultimately end up on a path that is not yours. But it's for you to assist them where you can, because again, when you teach something, you learn it twice and you really begin to know who you are, right? So now we have 30. Ooh, number 30. Number 30, that's cute. And the blue set. Number 30 is, it's 332 right now. Number 30 is the Nine of Essences. So we have the Nine of Souls and the Nine of Essences. Again, I feel like it speaks to we're nearing completion. So not only are we nearing completion on a soul level, but we're also nearing completion on an essence level. And the difference is our soul is who we are, and our essence is who we need to be in this lifetime. And I say that because it's the subsection of who we are as a whole, but that is most relevant, salient, and best serves us in this lifetime and gets us to where we want to be. Also, with the essences, this feels like we are beginning to, we've rooted out a lot of the things that aren't of us, that were kind of sort of instilled in us, that don't really align. And so another thing that may help you grow or come into yourself a little bit is to really be honest about what is you and what isn't you. Because it could be the case that either you're still hanging on to things from other people that aren't you, or you've thrown out something. Hey Siri, what time is it?
It's 3:33 p.m.
Hey, did y'all hear that? Siri said it's 3:33 p.m. You could have thrown something away that was you, that maybe you didn't like, or maybe you thought it wasn't you. And as long as you have stuff that is not you, or you don't have stuff that is you, you're never going to reach that 10 completion of the suit of essences. Now, the thing about the 9 and the 10 is that they both signify completion, but the 10 is ready to begin something new. And that's the difference. And so if you're not, and it's you've done a lot of healing, yes, you're so different, yes, queen, you've grown, yes, but there's still a little bit more to do, 90% of the way there, maybe even 99% of the way there, right? Because 99 is a 9, it still reduces to a 9. So you can be 99% of the way there or 90% of the way there. You can have 1% left or 10% left, 1 or 10, come here, come 1 or 10. And I think another thing is that it's interesting because souls grow and evolve and change, just like anything. But it's over a longer time span, right? So it's instead of looking at how roses grow and bloom on a rose bush, we're looking at trees, right? And so your soul would be the tree, and the flowers on the tree would be this one lifetime you've had. And so the growth happens over a much larger time scale. And again, if you look at the rings, you'd be able to tell, okay, this was harder, that was lighter, blah, 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 blah. And so there could be things that you have in the store of your soul that you can't necessarily yet attribute to any experience in this lifetime. And so let's say for whatever reason you are a particularly hardy and strong and tough soul. Whenever there's a fight that needs to go down, you're there. But the lifetime that you've had this time isn't necessarily that contentious. And so you may have these parts of you that are extremely aggressive or abrasive that you wouldn't necessarily identify with on a certain level. But then if you sort of sit still and if you come into yourself a little bit, you'd be able to maybe potentially figure out, okay, yeah, that is a part of me, right? Anything in your shadow, girl, is you. Now, all that extra stuff from the environment, that's all trash. Next is 15, and 15 is that devil. Ooh, some of y'all may be a little devious. But again, like you don't know who you were like last life, 10 lives ago, 15 lives ago. You don't know what you learned in that part of your journey. Um, Devil energy can also be manipulative, but the devil actually came out as the advice yesterday. It's like, I'm not telling anybody to go and burn themselves, but it's like if you are a wielder of fire in your soul, but you don't know that, the fire will burn you until you invite it in. And it's almost like someone has a pyromancy ability or a pyrokinetic ability or whatever. An ability associated to the element of fire, like literal fire. And so maybe when you were younger, I'm pitching y'all a scene from a TV show or a movie, okay? This is a scene from a TV show or a movie, okay? It's like when you're young, you were really attracted to fire and you would play with hot things. Oh my gosh, you were the kid. Because a few videos ago, maybe a few days ago, maybe a week ago, there was a mother with a child, and the child would always touch the stove and burn themselves on the stove. And so Child Protective Services got called on the mother. And at first we thought it was something about the stove that was getting people to touch it. You're that kid that was always attracted to the hot things, and you were never burned until your mother told you that's hot, like why are you touching that, and then you get burned. It's like on a soul level you understood your relationship with the element of fire, but on an essential level, in essence, in this lifetime, in this particular incarnation, on this plane, the way things work, it doesn't necessarily make sense. And so now it's like your connection to fire has been severed because you were always raised, fire is hot, don't touch it. So now whenever you touch it, it burns you because that's the conditioning that you've picked up. That's your 90 or 99%. Now when you leave that or come out of that, and don't ask me how, ask spirit. And again, this is a scene from a movie or a TV show. Okay? Fire didn't burn you until you were told that fire is hot. Water didn't drown you until you were told that, water can drown you. It's like Percy Jackson sitting at the bottom of the swimming pool or whatever. And so you're reaching the point where as your programming falls away, fire stops burning you because you regain your connection to that piece of your soul that's always there. It never goes away, but it's so subtle that it can be overridden with other programming. And that's why it's important that we take the journey of the soul and the journey of the essences. And while they are interconnected on a lot of intimate levels, there still is a difference between them. But that's what this devil energy kind of sort of is giving me. Kind of sort of in some weird way. I don't know how we went there. But it's like it's calling you back. Now, if devil energy is just straight up devil energy, then leave that mess alone. Yeah, I mean, it burns people. So, everyone doesn't. If we want to get real mythological, fire is inherently a divine element. Fire is what started the whole caveman revolution or whatever. But also, Prometheus was punished for bringing fire to man. So there's something about fire that people inherently just aren't supposed to mess with. That's why Prometheus was punished. But for those beings of divine descent, the relationship with fire is different. Fire was initially stolen from the gods and given to man, but to one that is divine, fire is your element. It's part of your suite of divine birthrights and gifts. Now, if you are man-born, then your relationship with fire is something that has been stolen, right? Something that, again, it doesn't interact the same way. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, let me turn it down a little bit so I can. But yes, 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 yes. That's interesting though. Honestly, I have a fear of fire. So I leave that mess alone. I don't like ovens. Like in my mind, it doesn't make sense for me to stick my hand into something that is very hot and designed to cook things. Like I'm not sticking my hand in like a wood chipper. I'm not sticking my hand in the mouth of a shark. I'm not sticking my hand in an oven. In my mind, it just makes sense. It's made to cook stuff. It's that stolen connection, girl. Because the bad guys are the ones. I don't know. Let me stop. Because the Fire Nation, they get a little too hot. They get a little too proud. They get proud. It's probably pride. It's like, oh, look what we can do. And it's like, Prometheus, what did you do? Prometheus, like, I ain't do nothing. What number is this? I got a 00. We have number 4. Number 4 is the Emperor, and the Emperor came out earlier today. When the Emperor came out earlier today, the Emperor was the raw material. It's unprocessed. It's unprocessed. It's raw. No, that was primordial masculine energy. It's unprocessed and raw and chaotic, and primordial feminine energy is an organizer. It's like an extruder, right? Like if you're making sausages and you put all the meat in the meat grinder, like all the meat in the meat grinder is the primordial masculine energy. The meat grinder itself is the primordial feminine energy, and then the sausages are the baby. But all of the material lies within that primordial masculine energy. That's why the sun gives us its light. It warms the earth and gives the creatures of the earth something to work with to sustain themselves. And blah, 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 and so on and so forth. This emperor energy, we got the devil and the emperor, y'all. The devil and the emperor energies together, that's like rulership over the self and rulership over the shadow. But it's not like a complete. It's not iron fisted, because if you iron fist the shadow, it's going to rebel against you. Um, it's like it must be invited in and appeased. It's a relationship just as important as any other relationship. But yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot today. I don't even know what to title this. Like woo 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 woo. Story time: the creation of the universe. I wonder if the element of fire is like the first or the last. The first element given to man is water, right? Fire. Oh no, would it be fire or air? Fire and air would be the last two elements given to man. And it depends on if they open their eyes first or if they breathe first. Maybe the first element is earth in the body, and then water in the. It's like earth and water get confused, and then fire and air get confused because you live in your mama little fluid sac, but you are of earth, right? You have a physical vessel. And you're made of the things that, partially made of the things that she eats, right? They help build you. And then when you exit your mother, you encounter the masculine, which is the fire and the water. Now, the fire is sight. Fire is perceiving the world around you. And the air is the breath, right? If you're not, if you come out alive, you breathe and then you see. And if fire is a gift of perception, then in that way it would also make sense that, according to some conspiracy beliefs and just how things are in general, it would make sense that the element of fire is villainized because fire gives us the ability to see. And if the gods punished Prometheus for giving fire to man, it's almost like the gods were punishing Prometheus for giving man the ability to perceive of the gods in a way that they weren't comfortable with being seen. Because let's say, what if it turns out they weren't actually gods? They were just people with a greater understanding of science, you know? For those who think that. Anyway, there's something about perceiving things as it actually is, or as they actually are, that makes the element of fire dangerous. Because once you begin to see, you can begin to question. And once you begin to question things, and like the element of water is the emotions and the feelings, it's easier. Like if I blindfold you and if I rub something up against you that feels good to your skin, you won't necessarily be concerned with what it is. But if it's laced with something, or like if it says on the bottle, do not put in contact with skin, but it feels good on your skin, you're not going to be concerned because it feels good. That's the feeling, that's the emotion. And we're extremely emotional creatures, right? And we're sort of fed in the stories that we're fed, in the air that we breathe, right? We're trained on how to emotionally respond to things, basically. And things that are designed and engineered to go viral, they play on those emotions that we're trained and conditioned to respond. Or they target the different ways that we're conditioned to respond to things through music and imagery and all kinds of stuff, right? That's the water, the good thing that keeps us subdued and cool and chill and submerged. But it's the fire, it's the vision, it's the actual perception that begins to disrupt things. So, that's why, maybe, another reason why. But also at the same time, it's like, if you can perceive something with fire, but you don't have the capability and the capacity to understand it with air, then that's when the fire and the water come into contention. Because when fire and water come together, either the water consumes the fire and you get soot or ash, which is earth, or the fire overtakes the water and you get steam, which is air. Now, steam, if there isn't a fair amount of air, it can burn. And if there's no control of air, then the fire and the water shouldn't come into contact. And that's why, until you can understand, you shouldn't see. Because we don't want you to be frightened or afraid of what it is that you have not seen yet before. And people have a fear of the unknown. But again, it's almost like that fear of the unknown comes through the villainization of fire, which is that element that permits us to see. So, of course, we're afraid of the unknown because that's kind of sort of how we're trained and conditioned. But in reality, we come from void space, birthed into the unknown. And maybe that's why we cry when we come out of the womb. And if we don't cry, they make sure we do. Anyway, the element of air, when you can see something but you can't understand it with the air, it causes issues, it causes problems. That's why until they can understand, it's better to keep them blind. I guess is the mode of thinking. Or they're just easier to control. It's whichever way you prefer to see it, right? I don't know. All right, that was plenty weird enough for me today. Thank you, Mimi, for engaging in conversation with me and for being here. If anyone watches this, thank you for watching. Good luck on your journeys. They say that confusion and stuff is out there, girl, so don't get confused. Depending on how long you've been with me, keep doing this stuff, or just go back to like January, February, March. Go back to like mid-February, maybe. Not mid-February. Where was that when I was talking about? Whenever I started talking about the mist rolling and girl, I've been talking about this for a minute. It just seems like it's starting to hit the collective now, which is fine. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. All right. Honestly, I feel like I could take a nap. No problem. Thank you. If any of this makes sense and or resonates, then I'm glad, I guess. I don't know. I kind of sort of lost 6 months. But like, is it 6 months because it's 6 months, or is it 6 months because people are slow, though? Let me stop. But I don't know. Ooh, mail. Let me get that off camera. It got personal information. All right. Yeah. But it's like I remember what you said, and I remember because it's like it starts in one energy, but then it pours out in another. And I guess the moon kind of sort of validates that because on the new moon, you're manifesting things that won't begin to pour out until you hit the full moon. Because when the light pulls out of the full moon, that's whenever your manifestations also pour out with it, right? And so I guess that makes sense. Um, but maybe we'll reach a point where we can reduce the lag time between the conception and the fulfillment. I guess that's 3D for you. That's 3D for you. So yeah, it's time. But it's like, man, like, is there any benefit? Yeah, there is. I guess the benefit to anytime we're made aware of something, like my mom said, the Bible said, warning comes before destruction. So anytime we're made aware of something, it's for us to begin to prepare for it and for us to begin to modify so that we can get the best out of the energy, or at the very least, we can be prepared for the way when it comes in. So that makes sense. Because I was going to be like, is there any benefit to even having that first notice? And I was initially I was almost tempted to say no, but the answer is yeah. Um, when you actually are engaged in preparation, then I guess it makes sense. I don't know. Maybe what I should start doing is recording videos and then setting them up to release like 6 months later. I might start doing that. Just upload it, be like timed release 6 months from now, and then we'll see. We'll see what's up. Oh my gosh, that would be like what, January? If I did that now, that would be January. Or I can just take a video from my old channel 6 months ago, and then I can upload a reaction to it and be like, oh my gosh, is this like appropriate? If I knew how to, actually, I can do it in OBS. In OBS, I could share my screen and watch it and then react to it and see, hmm, hmm, that sounds like a fun little thing. But then that might require some editing, girl, and I ain't about editing. So if I have a short enough video that I can revisit, then I'll do that. Because I feel like, me watching a video I've already posted for like a whole nother hour, like watch me watch this video live for another hour, you know, right? It would probably, like, I was talking to Emily, and she was like, I feel like I've lived like I feel like everything that happened like pre-COVID is like a past life, and even things that have happened since were a past life. I feel like I've lived like maybe at least 2 lives since March. Did y'all hear what I said? I tried it. I was like, yeah, I really did. I tried to make that happen, and it didn't work out. But I don't know. That is actually interesting. That's interesting. I think I'll do it. I'll do it on one of them. Um, I'll go back and I'll see. All right. Well, let me shut this down. Thank you again, Mimi, for being in attendance. Thank you, anyone who watches. If there's one piece of advice I could give to anybody, listen to what I say. Like, I don't know. Um, that's not real advice. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not necessarily in that space anymore. Um, Honestly, for me, it feels like a chill time. It feels like a time to begin to build. It feels like a time to actually sleep because I can sleep now, which is amazing. And I mean, I pulled the Ten of Swords for the lunar full moon lunar eclipse like how many times? And it's interesting because when I first got it, I was like, anything that we should have put it into that we haven't put it into might resurface in a way that is like, ooh, in the next 6 months. And I've been having dreams about things that I've already put it into or ways that I've already put it into. And so I don't necessarily know what that's about, but I mean, maybe it's things that I won't have to revisit IRL. It's like, I guess I wake up with like an understanding of like, that's not who I am anymore. So that was cute. Remember when that would have happened? I don't know. It's weird. My advice to anybody would be just when it gets hard, keep going. When something comes up that you don't like, look at it in anyway. Look at it anyway. Consider it exposure therapy, if you will. And that's it. So I'm gonna catch y'all later. Bye bye.